Guys like to fix problems, and nowhere are there more problems to fix than in a relationship. I have many male clients who come in and they're in love with a woman who is she just makes bad choices. Not one bad choice, just continually bad choices. And these guys are usually really good guys. They would do anything for her, but they can't understand why she continues to sabotage the relationship. I used to tell my daughters the most important thing when you start dating is to get to know the parents that raised this person you love. Because someone that comes from unloving parents, a daughter raised by an unloving mother, or a home where the dad abandoned and she was left with the mother who wasn't clear about how she felt. She would do different mind games with her daughter. She would do neglectful behaviors with her daughter, or what I would consider emotionally abusive things. These girls grow up to be women that are in between relationships all the time, and they don't choose wisely. And the reason they don't choose wisely is because it makes no sense to them. What makes sense to them is the kind of love they grew up with. And if they grew up with someone whose love was chaotic and erratic and just unstable, they cannot possibly get to that point. Many guys ask me, hey, Mary Jo, can I love her out of this? It's very difficult. I mean, I would like to say, yes, you could possibly love her out of it, but I'm afraid that what happens is so many times you will be in a position where you'll have to forgive her, and she will do things that will be so hurtful. Then it comes between you deciding, okay, am I risking my own mental health now? Am I risking everything that I want in life for this woman who I love, but I don't think she has any concept of how to love me? And these are questions that you have to ask yourself, not once, but frequently throughout the relationship. So I'm just thought, it would help you if I went through lists, things that happen when someone is raised by an unstable parent, an abusive parent, why they think the way they do. Because sometimes if we understand why they're doing what we do, it's easier for us to counter it. So first of all, she's drawn to the familiar. So automatically, if she came from a family with chaos and drama, she's going to need that in her life. And if you're one of those guys who's stable, you don't like drama, she will go out of her way to create it. And if you look at it like for her, she needs this. This is love to her, and she probably wants to love you. But there's not enough of this chaos for her to really feel comfortable in the love. Secondly, she's susceptible to love bombing. Love bombers actually are big liars. They just give you all this attention, all these gifts, everything else, and then they just drop you. And that's what happened in her family of origin. There were periods of time when she got a lot of attention, when it was really noticed. But once again, it never carried through, and it never carried through in the ways you really need a parent's support. Their discipline, their follow through, they're making promises and keeping them. Love bombers just have no promises. They have no commitment. They just bomb you with gifts and glory, and then they're out of your life. Thirdly, she mistakes drama for passion. And this is usually one of the culprits of having a stable relationship with them. Everything that is dramatic or full of angst and hurt, they see that as just sheer passion. That means the two of you are so in love that you're just fighting for this. And when you've got that mindset, you're not going to be happy with somebody who's stable and just wants calm and a reasonable, responsible relationship. Her child experience blind her to how she's being treated. So she might go back and forth with you and then this other guy who takes advantage of her, abuses her physically or emotionally, and does stands her up, all these other things. But because of how she was raised, and once again, this feels somewhat normal This is what she has in her head, wired in, that's love. It's really difficult to remind her, to help her see that this is not love. This is unstable love. What the two of you have is more likely to be stable love. And since she's never had that, she may not feel comfortable with it. She's quick to blame herself. People that came from chaotic, abusive homes automatically blame themselves. Now, this is not to be confused with women in general. I think women in general have more of a tendency to take the blame, to look at themselves and their own responsibility. But in this kind of a person, their blame is intense. They are very mean to themselves, extremely self-critical, and they will cry and carry on. And you may say, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Probably not the thing to say, because for them it is. It'll be better in that situation if you say, I can see this is really upsetting to you. And then maybe they'll open up more and share that with you. She doesn't trust her gut, or she doesn't trust her perceptions. And the reason she doesn't is because that's been taken away from her as a kid. When you don't trust your gut anymore, when you're told repeatedly with words and actions that what you feel doesn't matter, do this anyway. And that's how these kids are raised. They're raised with the mindset that I don't care how you feel. And if you tell me you're sad, I'm going to give you a worse punishment than before. So the only thing they know is superficial, and they have no idea of their gut. They basically have to learn to trust that again. It's an inside job. You can't fix that. A therapist can help, but they need to want to go. They lack a healthy relationship model. So if you took them, if you came from a really responsible, lovely home, if you continue to have them around your parents, they may be able to learn it. But don't expect them to learn it easily, because there will be some grieving involved. There will be some anger, some revenge, that you had parents like this, especially as they become more enlightened, that, oh my gosh, I really grew up in a traumatic, chaotic home. And I think there's a real deep sadness there. I wouldn't try to fix that. I would try to lead them to a grief share group, or do some kind of a grief workshop with them. And there's many online. If you just Google grief workshops, or grief.org, griefcare.org, those are very good organizations that can help you get started in that. True love is foreign to her, and so she doesn't really know what it looks or feels like. So in moments of true love, like maybe you got her an emotional valued gift, maybe you got her a card with pictures, or a poem, everything you thought about her the first day you met her, and you give her that. At first she may seem reluctant, or she might not get it, but if you remind her this is an emotionally valued gift, the more she can feel that, the more she's going to appreciate it. These are small steps to her gaining that back. And she's usually, people from these homes that grow up in this kind of an environment are terrified to be alone. And what that means for you is, if they get hooked up into codependent relationships, they are terrified to be alone, so they would rather have a warm body than no body. And because they carry that with them, it's important that you know that going into the relationship. If they're alone, like if you have a job that's traveling, it's probably not going to work unless you are able to take her with you every time. They are overwhelming in their need for someone. I've seen some couples that have actually, been able to help this one aspect by having an animal, like a puppy or something like that, that she could get very attached to. And then hopefully the two of you could do that together too, so that it was something you shared together. But I wouldn't have a child as a way of compensating for this need that now she won't be alone. Because someone that comes from a family of chaos or abuse, or not being loved genuinely, they oftentimes aren't good parents. Or if they are, it's because they have a lot of help. So just remember that if you're thinking of a future with this person. Guys blame themselves too for a lot of this. They say, and dads always get blamed. And a lot of times dads do abandon families. And it is hard when a dad is no longer in his daughter's life. But when the single parent is mom and she's an abusive or not their neglectful parent, that girl's going to grow up to be a woman with lots of issues. And guys, you can't fix it. You can work with a therapist to help fix it, but you alone are not responsible for fixing this problem.